So here we go. This is one video called 1.2 million in debt case study part 1, dealing with husband and wife. This is husband's income at the time. We're talking, this must have been between 2019 and 2020, I believe is when I did this video. All right, let me see. This was how many? 4 years ago. Yeah, so 2020 is when this video got published. You can see their income, 23,402 at the time, expenses 16 grand, debt 1.1, almost 1.2 million. Most of that was student loans and a mortgage, as you can see the breakdown of it right here. In the very beginning, it was all about velocity banking with their second position home equity line of credit, 67,000. It was at 5.25%, right? And we were eliminating a bunch of debt, and as you can see, I was pretty much laying everything out. And let me see if I can fast forward if I wrote more stuff. Yeah, it looks like I did. All right, let's go here. Yeah, so we've been redirecting money, redirecting savings. He was listening to the whole plan. Total debt paid in about 5 months was 113 grand. We did 2 whole chunks, 49K, 33K. A lot of progress there. So that's part 1 of that video. And I'll go ahead and copy and throw this into the chat for you guys to check out. This way it's there. You guys have that. Then part 2, the case study, kept going. Let me fast forward, show all the other parts involved. Let's see if I can get out the way. Oh, I look crazy there. There we go. So I'm out of the way. So this part 2 shows, look, we eliminated all this debt, right? And while doing this, we were also strategizing on funding of various different policies, life insurance policies, one on himself, one on wife, one on daughter. Okay, so that was back then, 3-4 years ago. Since then, one of the key components, I'm gonna take it back, share my screen, back to the whiteboard, right? So that's giving you context. Oh, and before, let me go over here and put the part 2 link in the chat so you have it. This way it gives you full context of the type of person you're dealing with, right? Before implementing all these different strategies. This person was coming to the table with a level of discipline, high level of income, good amount of cash flow, even though we were in massive amount of debt, 1.2 million. One of their biggest priorities at the time when we first started working together was pay down debt. So we eliminated a ton of consumer debts that increased his cash flow quite a bit. At the same time, this is a type of person that's a value creator, right? Someone that creates value in their life over a long period of time, and that results in an increase in income, okay? If you don't see yourself or value yourself where you can create value out of thin air, you can create ideas, think of ideas, business plans, services that you can provide to the marketplace and get paid more money than where you currently are today. When it comes to velocity banking, infinite banking concept, when it comes to all these different strategies, they're only going to work so well, right? Based on where you're at today. But if we combine strategies, financial strategies, with your ability to increase value in the marketplace, it's simply going to enhance the strategy. If I have more income to work with, I've got more cash flow to work with. If I have someone that's a good steward, very good discipline, I'm going to be able to illustrate better results. If you're coming to the strategy, say velocity banking, infinite banking, or anything else that you hear on the internet, if you're coming into the strategy without pre-existing disciplines and without this confidence that you can create value in the marketplace and get paid more money over time, most of the time those people are thinking the strategy will save them. The strategy will get me out of debt. The strategy will make me wealthy, will create passive income. I'm here to tell you that's completely false. It just isn't so. You may have some sort of a boost in the beginning, that's great, but it's not sustainable if we don't also look at How do you create value in the world? Or are you going to stay at your job at your consistent skill level? Are you going to stay at your current skill level and job for your whole active producing years until you retire? If so, again, these strategies are only going to take you so far. It may provide some relief in your lifestyle, but you're still going to be stuck in a box overall. At the end of the day, you're going to be stuck in a box. So to give you full context here in this case study, we're dealing with someone that has a desire to increase income, increase value in the marketplace, guard their kingdom, protect it, multiply it, cultivate it. Okay, very important. You're dealing with a person that is in a high skill environment. This is a doctor, right? So highly skilled and desires to continue to increase skill despite getting older. Doesn't matter. Age not a factor. They continue to expand their mindset, learn more skills. With me so far? Let me know in the comments. Okay? So gave you the full case study, gave you the background context there. Now let's look at 2024 today. What's going on, right? I'm really excited because I have a call coming up with this person. So I don't have all the details just yet because I haven't had a call with the individual yet. So the four major numbers are looking a bit blank. I can estimate, but I just wanted to leave it blank for now because it's not the primary focus of today's topic and what we're going to be discussing. We're just looking at the policy or the policies that this person's been able to build, right? What I did share with you from the last time we communicated, they had increased their income from that 23,000 range, and we doubled it from 2020 going into 2023 and onward. So when you take in their salary being 450 grand, distributions on top of that of 180, we're looking at 50,000 or more in income on a monthly basis. It doesn't necessarily come out monthly, right? He's more like 37, 35K on a monthly, and then quarterly distribution. So there's like 4 months out of the year where there's, big income months, right? And what this person was doing very strategically with those big income months is where we would save quite a bit of money into life insurance or make investments and or continue to pay off more debt, right? So again, from the very beginning, it was just velocity banking with a HELOC in the second position, pay off debt, cool. Then we graduated and we did velocity banking with a HELOC plus cash flow plus increasing value, being a value creator to help max fund 3 policies, okay? This is husband's primary policy here with MassMutual, funding $70,000 per year. We designed it to fund it for 10 years. The base premium is $8,296.88. After this year's funding, their anniversary date is in September. So their cash value will be somewhere around this number, $351,511. It'll be less because this number is assuming that they funded it and we're at the end of year 5, where technically we are at the end of year 4 right now, and we're going to enter year 5. So you put the principal in, then the money grows, then you get dividends by the end of year 5, which would be September 2025. The cash value should be right around here, 351. So it might be like 340 something, right? We have a total as of August 2024, we have $188,090 in loans, right? So if we look at the leverage of cash value compared to loans, right? Looking at that 351,511 number times 66%, that's 231. So we're well below 66% leveraged on the policy itself. Now, to be a little more accurate, if I take the 351, I'm just going to minus 70 grand, right? Times that by 66%, it's 185. So this person is like, with the current cash value that they have, which is really that 351 minus 70 grand because we haven't funded the 70K just yet. That's happening in September. That their cash value is more around this number, 351, 511 minus 70. It's less than 281 right now on their total cash value altogether, right? And when you take that number times by two-thirds, they're about 66% leverage. It's probably a little bit more right now, and then that'll adjust itself once they do the next funding amount. So this follows the rules of leverage. We're staying in the guidelines of how I typically, coach and educate people and teach you guys the leverage rules and leverage capacity. We're talking about that yesterday. Today, it's like it's the same rules being applied to any strategy I implement. It's very, very healthy to do this. Now, even if he borrowed more than 2/3 in this specific policy, when you look at the overall plan of what we're doing, we are funding a policy on daughter for $3,600 a year. He's been funding that. We're entering year 5 on this. And then wife is being funded a policy at $27,000 a year. I think we're able to pay a little more into that, but I think for the majority of the years that it's been funded, I think we've been around that number, 27K. There might have been some years have been a little less, but that's the goal number, 27,000 a year. That's also, been funded for 5 years. So when you factor in how big these policies have grown, I think this one's probably, the daughter's one is probably like maybe 20K by now. And then wife's got to be almost 6 figures, I would assume, maybe a little less. So once we have our call, I'll be able to get all the updated numbers on that. But when you look at it all together, okay, yes, we're not over leveraged by any means, and we have plenty of reserves, right? So velocity banking to pay off debt in the beginning. Then it was velocity banking to help max fund IBC policies. What did that look like? Well, in the beginning, when he was around that 23K range, very strategically, we would pull money from the HELOC to not all of it, not all 70K, but the difference between cash on hand, and whatever we lacked to make up for the full 70 so that we could have it fully funded that initial year, and then we would borrow against that money and go make certain moves. In the beginning, typically we were using these policies to fund daughter's tuition. We did that a couple years. Sometimes he would borrow from his own policy to help max fund daughter's and wife's policy. We did that a couple times. I think he might have ran a tax expense through there. These are strategies that are not forever strategies. These are strategies that buy time, okay? So you may find, and we'll get into your philosophy, your way of thinking about infinite banking, how you can use it for yourself in your own finances. Over the years, it's what I learned for myself as it relates to funding a policy is one thing, and then what you do with the policy is a whole nother ballgame. Now, to stretch your dollars, you could make a case, you could make an argument for max funding a policy with dollars you intend to spend. So it's like you're saving your money first, then you're borrowing against that same dollars that you were saving, and now you're going to pay for an expense. That could work for the sake of getting more money into the policy, and over the long haul, you would recoup on what you just did. But in my opinion, it is not a forever strategy. I think what I like to do with my clients is wean them off of velocity banking altogether at some point, usually, and wean you off of using expense dollars to fund a policy to borrow against to pay for the expense, right? In the beginning, that may work for a couple of years. The reason why it's not a forever strategy is there's typically not a plan in place on how do we repay all those loans if I'm not a value creator. If I plan on 10xing my income and I'm going to use expenses to help me initially max fund these policies, okay, cool. I may be for that, and this person's going to increase their income. So by the time they 10x, 4x, 5x, whatever it is, we're in a position where we have way more income, way more cash flow to pay back all those loans. And then at that point, you don't need to use expenses anymore to max fund your policy because you're making all this money. Does that make sense? Right? So as long as we're increasing cash flow, increasing income, I'm okay with the whole idea of running certain expenses through your policy for the sake of buying time and for the sake of max funding, getting more money into the policy because it's ultimately going to grow tax-free, compounded forever and ever as long as you live, right? I get that part. So that's what we did for the first couple of years. Then it was velocity banking plus infinite banking together, right? To leverage, to create more income, to create more opportunities. And now we're solving pretty much since day one. We've always been solving for financial freedom, right? That's like end game, financial freedom. Get to that point, financial independence, financial freedom, being in a position where I don't have to work, I get to work, I want to work, I'm in my zone, I'm in my peace, I'm in my place of abundance. I can be a major contributor, all these different things. Wonderful, wonderful, right? At some point, these strategies should change. If you stay stuck in your box for too long, for me, that's when inefficiencies start to occur, because we're hoping for the strategy itself to deliver us financial freedom, and that's not the case. That's not what's going to happen, I promise you. So that's the breakdown of this particular case study here, and I'm excited. I'll make another video later on once I get more details and see where the person is currently at, what they're working on. But we can basically say that in the last 4 or 5 years, this person has saved almost $500,000 in whole life insurance, and by year 6 or 7, maybe a little sooner, we'll have $500,000 built up in cash value. And that same $500,000, roughly 66% of it, was used to either make investments, pay off debt, or cover certain expenses. So the money got used twice, 3 times, 4 times over. Right, really, really cool. And here is the breakdown of how these things work. Now, if you have questions, I want you to put questions in the comments. I want you to let me know what's going through your mind. What are you thinking? What are you working on? What are you stuck on? Right? I want to take a lot of time to break that down over here, right? And another thing that I will do, right? I'm going to share with you some more guidelines. This is something I've also done in the past, where you can email me directly and ask me for the documents. You just say subject line, IBC documents. And basically these are very, very, very helpful frameworks, guidelines, regardless of who you work with in the industry, whether you work with me directly, one of my partners, or one of my fellow content creators that talk about infinite banking and max funding policies and doing all these wonderful things with them. What I'm going to share with you are super helpful guidelines, can't go wrong, allows you to really see where you're currently at, making sure you're not forcing these things to work in your favor, right? Because you don't want to have future problems later on. So let me take a few seconds here to pull this up. So the main documents that I have as it relates to infinite banking, I got one titled Infinite Banking Funding Rules that I came up with personally, infinite banking marketing terms, and then I have infinite banking checklist. Let me pull this up for you. Bear with me. So yeah, infinite banking checklist. All right, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Again, if you want this document, just email me directly. Happy to send it your way. All right. So these are a list of questions that you can simply ask for yourself and also ask the agent that you're working with, right? Have them explain their process to you in detail. There's so many different ways that you can implement this concept, generally known as infinite banking, right? And I'll get into the marketing terms because there's different names for it. Reason for that is you're dealing with different people, right? So they have different values in that regard. So you've got explain their process to you in detail. Do you have chemistry with the agent? Right? This is someone that if you do business with this specific agent, ideally you want to know if they're going to be in the business for, majority of their life. Like, is this something they truly want to do and desire? And if not, that might be a red flag for you, right? Because this is someone that you need to be able to contact at least every single year, see how your policy is performing, go over questions, those types of things, right? Ask yourself, how does the agent handle objections, legitimate questions, right? You may have a legitimate question. Hey, why should I finance a car through here? Hey, why is the base premium this high, compared to the cash value starting in the beginning year? I've seen other designs where it can have higher cash value. Why are we doing this over this? Why this company over that? See how they handle it. If they become argumentative or make you read a book or something or force you to watch 10 videos, hey, that is part of their process. And you have to ask yourself if that's something you're willing to do or not. Okay? Will the agent take time to hear your problems and concerns? Does the agent plan on being in the business for the whole career? In case they leave the industry, who do you contact next to provide support on your policy or policies, right? Super important. So that's for the agent guideline for you. Am I thinking long-term or short-term? How much cash flow do I have per year? What is your minimum number you can pay in per year with your eyes closed? Meaning, what should your minimum base premium be that you can afford even if you lose your job, even if your income gets cut in half? This is not going to be a stretch. It's not going to feel like a bill. If you set your base premium too high, you set your expectations too high on how you can overfund this life insurance policy, and things don't go your way according to plan because life happens, it could end up destroying the policy. So it almost doesn't matter how the policy performed because it didn't stay alive, right? So I much rather design a policy that's doable, more than doable for someone, with the opportunity for you to grow with it. That's usually how I like to do it, right? So what is the desired amount that you want to pay in per year? That's a different number. And how long do you want to max fund? What's the strategy once the policy is fully funded? What's the strategy while you are funding? These things can change, right? And then these are other products and services I go over that you can stack on top of these policies as you grow, different things that you can obtain that would improve, right? This goes over the different policy designs in the marketplace. Generally speaking, you've got 1090, 1585, 2080, 2575, 4060. The first number being how much of your dollars is going to base premium. The second number being how much of your dollars is going to cash value. Okay? I personally believe that anything past 40% of your money going to the base premium, you're no longer really practicing infinite banking. You might be solving for a different purpose. That's my opinion, right? It's not necessarily a fact. It's just what I've seen people's policies set up. Some people thought they were doing infinite banking and didn't realize they had 90% of their money or 100% of their money going to the base. I'm like, that's not infinite banking. The agent sold you an incorrect policy. It's like asking for a Mercedes at a Mercedes dealership. This is the car you want. You're on the phone with them, and then you show up and they provide you a GMC vehicle. Like, that's not what you wanted, but you didn't know until you got there, right? And then here are 3 people that I enjoy working with that design policies very ethically, very efficiently. I like their work. I like their ways of thinking. I like how they process. You got Steve Parisi, Caleb, Daniel Romberg. All of them have YouTube channels. Those links directly. You check that out. Again, you just email me. Happy to send you that. So that's the infinite banking checklist. Okay. And let me also find the other one. Here you go. So you got infinite banking marketing terms. Okay. These infinite banking marketing terms, they all are literally referring to the same exact thing. Whole life insurance, for the most part, right? These are just, you're then dealing with different people in terms of how they typically design policies or their philosophy around it, right? So I'm asking you, comment below, what is your philosophy around infinite banking, how it can work for your life? What do you want it to do for you. There's so much flexibility, so much customization in this. So these are all most of the marketing terms that I know of. And then these are the actual products, right? L100, L95, 10 pay, 20 pay, 30 pay. Whole life is the general product. Then you have different designs, right? I'm gonna add one in here called High Early Cash Value Design. That's another one, only provided by MassMutual. And then these are the general companies that are typically used for this concept, but I would argue not too many people, not too many agents use this company. I'll just throw that out there, nor this company, right? I would say companies that are more popular, very popular, right, to use. You got Ameritas, One America, popular, Lafayette, popular. MassMutual lost popularity. Let's say lost some popularity because they disagree with infinite banking, okay? They put out a statement not too long ago. And what that basically means is MassMutual doesn't really, it's like a double-edged sword for them because they have an amazing product called the High Early Cash Value Design, literally designed for max funding and high early cash value upfront. You can use it, leverage it however you want. So it's not like the company is saying you can't do infinite banking. They just don't want, I think, it in their atmosphere or whatever the case, right? So a lot of prominent infinite banking practitioners such as Chris Noggle, who put out a video, Chris Kirkpatrick, a couple other guys that are very, very prominent, very popular, doing a lot of designs, may have used MassMutual in the past quite a bit, probably own MassMutual themselves. I own MassMutual myself, but they no longer write with them because either they got their license to a point with the company, probably got maybe taken away, especially when you're vocal on the internet. That can, bark up the wrong bush sometimes. So that's just something to be aware of. I still write with MassMutual, right? I just let my clients know that when you bring up IBC to their staff, they're not going to be as helpful, whereas maybe a Guardian would, or a Lafayette, or maybe a One America or Ameritas. Like some of the smaller companies like Penn, Lafayette, One America, Ameritas are you could say they have more support. I personally don't own a policy with Penn Mutual, Lafayette, One America, or Ameritas, but I know those are the most popular ones that typically get used. And a lot of my fellow content creators, business owners use those companies. I personally own with MassMutual and Guardian, and that's kind of like the only policies I've ever written with for my clients. What I do plan on doing, probably, I might get a policy with One America to start testing it out. And that's going to be my goal as I get older and older. I want to get a policy with probably all these different companies that typically get used, just to see what the experience is like and performance. Right, here we go with company criteria. It's got to be mutually owned. It's got to be 100 plus years old. You need to see actual performance history on a actual life insurance policy, not just assumptions, right? When you get that really helps. Stability and flexibility is important as well. Stability just meaning the viability of the company. You're able to see how much revenue they're bringing in, what they're focused on, what they're looking at. Flexibility meaning how you're able to fund the policy, right? And then I still need to probably update this because more people have probably entered the space since then. But these are your top people that will talk about infinite banking, right? And I'm probably missing a ton in here, right? I got Chris Noggle there. And then these are books on the infinite banking concept. Again, not everyone is saying the same thing, but they're essentially pointing you to whole life, right? And then again, these are the three people that I refer business to, that I enjoy their process. I like what they do. I like what they stand for. I like their philosophies. So all that very, very helpful. Again, you want all of that. Happy to give that to you. Just email me directly. I'll put my email in the chat.